All right. Welcome, everyone, to the 2026 Growth Blueprint. My name is Jonathan Bannister. I'm the owner and founder of TopServe Digital, also the host of Home Service Hustle podcast. And we're a few minutes early. We're obviously going to give everybody time to get in. Today's podcast, or today's webinar, I should say, this is going to be a very interactive learning opportunity for all of us to make sure that we're getting on track for our 2026 planning. We need to make sure that we understand capacity, that we understand our budgeted numbers, that we have an idea of where we're going to get the leads from, how we're going to generate this revenue. And so we're going to kind of discuss all of it. We're going to look at what happened in 25 and what to kind of expect in 2026. All right. So we are a couple minutes away from getting started. And again, this is going to be interactive. We want to make sure we get everyone's questions answered and make sure that we're all set up for success. Look, at the very least, we need to be looking at the next 3 or 4 months. We've got our shoulder season that a lot of us are in right now, but we need to make sure that we're ready and prepared for spring and really making sure that once the heat gets here, that we are all ready to rock and roll. So again, if you're just joining, everyone that's coming in, if you would drop in the comment section where you're joining from. Today's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna be talking about what we saw in 2025, the shift of AI and what has taken place there. But really, this is going to be more about planning and making sure that we have ourselves set up, ready for success for 2026, whatever industry that you're in. Welcome, Damon. Got one of TopServe's clients here, one of our favorites here in the Dallas market, Hawkins Siding. So again, we're going to be covering budgeting. We're going to be talking about trending things that are taking place, the shift from Google to AI. We've got paid ads that are going to be launching on the AI platforms here soon. We're going to be talking about branding, the importance of branding. We're just going to be talking about budgeting, like how should we be properly looking at a branding budget from a lead generation budget. And they are two completely different things. Okay, so digital heroin. What is it? And how do we make sure that we get off of it as soon as we can? And you notice there that I did not say, let's talk about how do we not get hooked on the digital heroin, because it's safe to say that 99.9% of all home service and home improvement companies out there are addicted to some form of digital heroin. It's if I were to ask every single business owner that we work with, the ones that are on here today with us, the question, is there paid ads that you're paying for that you would rather not be paying for? Do you feel that the paid ads you're paying for are too overpriced and over expensive? Everyone is going to say yes to that. That is the digital heroin. That is if I don't pay Google, if I don't pay Facebook, if I don't pay Angie's List or Yelp, my business, I essentially don't have a business to run. And so that dependency on those platforms is the digital heroin. And here's the quote that I want each and every one of you to remember. Digital real estate. There's a lot of things that can be considered digital real estate. It could be your website is digital real estate. Your Google My Business profile, your Google Business profile is digital real estate, a big piece of digital real estate. Your Google ads, your Facebook ads, your TikTok ads, they're all digital real estate. And I'm here to tell you, digital real estate is a liability. But mental real estate, remember that, mental real estate is an asset. And so here's what that essentially means. Your Google Business profile, whether you have one or you have 7 different locations set up, can be taken away from you at any time for any reason, because you are just the landlord. You are renting that piece of real estate. You don't own it. So it can get suspended. It can get permanently taken away. There's all types of things that can go wrong there. Now, your website you technically own, but even the domain, like, you don't own that domain. It's not yours forever. You're just leasing that .com or whatever your URL is. You're just renting it as well. And there's been times, it happens all the time. The most recent famous one was the 2016 election. Right around that time, there was a domain. I think it was Jeb Bush's. It was jebbush.com. And the domain expired. And when it expired, there was an alert that was on that domain that if it expired, there was someone else that wanted to automatically be able to purchase that, because remember, it wasn't owned. It's only being leased or rented. And so when jebbush.com expired, Donald Trump's campaign went and purchased the domain. So then he started running ads and started saying things publicly like, hey, I love Jeb Bush. You ought to go to jebbush.com. And it was this big funny thing, because you went to jebbush.com, it was Donald Trump's website. So just know that if your credit card expires or something happens, and obviously there's a grace period of, you don't lose your domain one day and wherever you bought your domain from is putting it onto the open market immediately. But that's not yours. And so even your website is a piece of digital real estate, and it can be taken away from you. You can always go build a new website, right? The files of that development of that website isn't the big deal. It's the URL. It's the history that is associated with that URL is what has the value, the search value, when it comes to Google. So the big thing that I want everyone to keep in mind here is that digital real estate is always a liability. The moment you can start acquiring mental real estate and you can get into the minds of your potential customers, that cannot be taken away. There was an incident that took place about 2 months ago. I was coming back from my storage unit, and I was in my wife's SUV, and I've got one of our boys with us. I had the middle child, the 12-year-old, and we're coming back from the storage unit, and on our way back, driving opposite side of the road, there was a vehicle on the other side of the road and slung a rock. And I see the rock midair. And it should have told my brain then that if I'm watching this rock slow motion in the air, there's a 100% chance it's going to hit the windshield. And it did. And it hit it. It hit it hard. It hit aggressively. And as soon as it hit, it started spreading across. Within like a fraction of a second to 1 second, I'm going through the emotional feelings of angry, pissed off, mad, scared of what my wife's going to say, frustrated. I'm about to have to go get this windshield replaced. Those are the things I was thinking in a half a second to a second. But my 12-year-old, his brain lit up something different. His brain, he immediately, when the rock hits the windshield, he says, Safelite repair, Safelite replace. I then immediately started laughing. I thought it was funny, and which was cool because in that moment I was angry and I was pissed off. And so I went to a happy place and I just looked at him and I said, that's branding. I said, that's amazing branding because you're 12 years old. You don't drive a vehicle for the next 4 years. And then all of us know that 16-year-olds that are driving, they don't even know that there's a windshield on the car. Like that's one of the least looked at components to the vehicle is the windshield. They don't care. And me nor his mom has ever used Safelite before. So when you take those two different components, that his brain in that moment of the rock hitting the windshield, it lit up an image or an audible sound of that jingle, Safelite repair, Safelite replace. And I just looked at him and I said, if that company, which I later researched, and that is a US operation only, they have like a sister company in Canada that has a jingle that's similar, but they operate in the US off of that jingle or tagline or whatever you want to call it. If they can do that to a 12-year-old in the United States, we can do that for every single one of our local home service and home improvement companies. And all it takes is something that causes an emotional connection. Laugh, cry, or get angry. So I would imagine that jingle was put on YouTube or TikTok or something where he had seen it a few times. And there was probably some kind of video that showed like something smashed in a window and then hearing Safelite repair, Safelite replace. But there was something that he liked that his brain thought was funny or cute or whatever of what he heard that made that stick. Because again, he doesn't drive. He's 12. So the windshield didn't matter to him. And so that is the key formula to being a local celebrity, right? Because Safelite Repair is this national brand on a much grander scale. And all we're trying to do is lock in a couple zip codes, a few cities. And so in order to do that, we've got to get an audible or visual element that makes an emotional feeling. You got to make them feel something, laugh, cry, get angry, and then it's frequency. And we're going to talk about this more throughout this webinar, but that's what you have to do. We have to get off of the digital heroin to where we're only depending on the people that have a problem today or are researching for the product or service that you offer. Do we still want those people? Absolutely, yes. But we don't want to be spending $10, $15, $20, $30, $40,000 a month on Google PPC. Because at the end of the day, there's only 3 to 5% of your market at any time that needs the services that you offer. And I want to show you what that looks like while I'm talking about this part, this visual. You know, I've got it real simple, 95 and 5, but really this is more around the 2 to 3% on just a normal day. 2 to 3% of your entire service area is calling or researching or in the buying stage to move forward with the products or services that you offer. But that's not just for you and your company. That is for all of your competitors. So everyone is fighting on Yelp, Angie's List, Home Advisor, Google LSA, Google PPC, Google My Business. Everyone is fighting for that same 2, 3, 4, 5% of the market share. Obviously, demand and sometimes weather will affect demand, is going to cause that to go up or to go down. But look at this 95%. Look at this overwhelming large piece of this pie here. How do we reach these people? Well, these people aren't going to Google today, typing in plumber near me, roofer near me, siding repair near me. Like, they're not putting those search terms in because they don't need you today. But they live in your service area. They live in your town or cities that you're wanting to target. They own a home. They just don't have the problem today. So they're not going to the fix my problem today place, which is Google. But if you want to grow and you want to stop being dependent upon the digital heroin, you have to start speaking to that 95% of the pie. And you have to start speaking to them with a message that is going to cause them to feel an emotion. And you have to get that frequency to 3 to 5 times a week, over and over and over. And you have to do it in a way that your budget allows you to reach those people. So you see, most people, most companies, most business owners, they are spreading their self entirely too thin, or they're spreading their self too thick, however you want to look at it. So if you're willing to drive anywhere, I live in Dallas, so I'm going to use Dallas as an example. If you're willing to target anywhere in Dallas, you're looking, it could be an hour and a half in any direction, if not more, with traffic. So when you're also looking at 7.5 to 8 million people that live here, it is impossible to even scratch the surface with the smallest percentage of people that would remember you. And here's what I mean by that. If you have 7 million people that live in your total area, like we do here in Dallas, the studies have shown that it takes 3 to 5 touch points weekly on a regular, consistent basis before that person is going to be able to remember you. Right? There's 3 levels of brand equity. There's no brand equity. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of companies are walking around with. Like, they think they've got a cool truck wrap. They think they've got yard signs and their uniforms are all branded. And we've worked with hundreds of people in the past. But I'm going to tell you that you have to think, if you went up to 100 strangers right now, and this is the litmus test that I think should be very concerning to everyone. If you went to 100 people in the town that you live in, and there was a gun put to their head that said, name a roofing company that you know of, name a siding company, name a plumbing company. And I'm speaking to the people on here. If you're an HVAC company, or you're a roofing company, or you're a plumbing company, how many of those 100 people, even in the town that you live in, would name your business? Because just because they've even used you in the past, because we hear this story all the time. We hear it, unfortunately, sometimes, which is the sad one, which is when our clients have club memberships or maintenance contracts, and they hear the story of one of their club members went to another company and got their air conditioning replaced. And they said, and it wasn't because they didn't like our client. I forgot I was in that maintenance contract with you. I forgot I got those extra perks and the discounts on the new system. How sad is that, that you're supposed to go to their house once or twice a year for a cleaning and they forgot about you? Because I'm going to tell you, you should be communicating with your existing customers more than non-customers. They should be hearing from you. And you've got their information. You've got their emails and their text messages. Send them newsletters. Send them text messages from time to time with, whether it's asking them for a random review or it's a buy one, get one, give one free type of offer. Touch those existing customers. They're your customers until they're not, but they're yours if you continue to nurture that relationship. But we have to figure out where the customers are going to come from and how much is that going to cost me through these lead aggregators. And that's, let's call it, I don't even like to call it lead generation, because I'm going to tell you, Google doesn't generate jack shit. And please excuse my language. I want to get that point across. Google doesn't generate anything. Because if Google did, or Google could, Google would have demand all the time because they'd be making more money. If they could control the weather, or they could control the minds of people that needed a new roof or new siding or new windows, if they could control that, they would always make more money. But they can't control that. They are at the mercy of that 3 to 5% that woke up this morning and had a problem. They have a broken window, a piece of their siding tore off, their roof is leaking, their woke up and their home was freezing cold, and it wasn't that way when they went to sleep last night, and there's something wrong with their furnace. That is the people in that 3 to 5%. And obviously, if you're in a much bigger market, you still have a greater pool of the 3 to 5% to pull from. But then again, we've got windshield time. We've got overhead costs that we got to look at. It doesn't do us any justice a lot of times to send someone an hour and a half away, sitting in traffic, tolls, gas, insurance, them tied up on an hour and a half drive on a call for 2 hours, hour and a half back. There's 5 hours of their days gone. It doesn't make sense. You want to stay close to your backyard as you possibly can. And this is where you want to be a local celebrity. And the way that you become a local celebrity is you tell a story that makes an emotional connection, and you get the frequency to 3 to 5 times a week. All right, so let's talk about, this is the world that we all used to be in before Google. It was radio, TV, billboards, yellow pages. There was one other on here that was the newspaper. And for those of you that are on here that are old enough, my age or older, and especially if you were running a business, like, this was your options plus the newspaper. And the only lead generator, if you want to call it, was the newspaper. Because you couldn't call up, you weren't going to call the billboard company or the radio company and say, hey, yeah, put this offer up tomorrow. Let's run this for a week or two. Like, typically that you wouldn't do that, but they would put call to actions, coupons and things in the newspaper. Even in the yellow book, like, some people may have had like a lead magnet, $25 off a maintenance call that they could honor throughout the whole year. But you couldn't put an offer for a specific product or service where it may change based off of your calendar, based off of your capacity, because the phone book wasn't going to go update and change itself. And I'm here to tell you that other than the yellow pages, which I did just find out recently, I was going to say, all of these exist still today except for the yellow pages. But the Yellow Pages does still exist, or the phone book still exists in some small rural towns. I didn't know that, but it does still exist, which is wild to me. But TV, radio, and billboards are still a big branding medium that a lot of people still use today. And this is where we transition to. We transition to this place that we thought was a better life, a better world. But today I call them the tech cartels, because these corporations, these software companies, these lead aggregators, they do not care about you or your business at all whatsoever. This is the liability. It's the necessary evil as well, because if we didn't have some of these lead sources, some of us would be closing our doors down. But at the end of the day, if I'm speaking to you on here and you're running ads on any of these platforms here, if your credit card expires today, or the balance, like you run out of credit on your card, these platforms, they shut off. They're not just going to keep funding you. So here's your ad on Google PPC, or even LSA, whatever we want to talk about. And it's got your picture of your business, right? Like we get to add photos to LSA, and your ad's up there if you're one of the lucky ones where you're in the top 2. But if your card was to expire, or it bounced today and it declines, your ad just woof, like magic. It disappears. So I'm not saying that there's not a place for these tech cartel companies. What I'm saying is we have to shift to a mindset and an approach that is, how do I make sure that I get the lowest cost per lead when I deal with these companies, that I'm the company that gets selected more often than my competitors, because they're always going to put competitors up against you. Like, think about that for a second. Y'all visually think about, you go to Google right now and you put in plumber near me. What comes up on the page? A lot of plumbers. There's going to be some plumbers that come up in LSA at the top. There's going to be 1 or 2 Google AdWords or PPC ads that come up next. Then you're going to have 3, maybe 4 that comes up in the Google Maps section, the largest piece of real estate there on that page. And I say 3 or 4 because they can stick an ad in there as well. And then you have the organic SEO. And then sometimes you have 1, 2, or 3 ads at the bottom of organic SEO. And so sometimes on average, you have between 20 and 22 options on that page. And that's if someone doesn't hit see more. Because if they hit see more on LSA, or they hit see more companies on Google Maps, they get another 20. So now you're taking your 20 to 22 to over 60. So my question is, what are we doing to make sure that we stick out on that page when someone does generically search for plumber near me? If there's 20 to 60 options that come on that page, what makes you stick out? And I'm telling you, it's brand and brand equity that is going to make you stick out. But that is going to take you investing into this 95% and not expecting an instant return on investment. You see, there's been these marketing gurus that have put into our heads, because of certain tools and as software and things have advanced, of return on ad spend. I should be able to tell, or I want to know what my exact return on ad spend is. And I'm going to tell you, what is return on ad spend? You spend $1,000 on ads and you make $4,000 back in revenue, then your return on ad spend was basically like a 3x or 4x return on ad spend. You put in 1,000, you made 4,000, 4x. But I don't believe that that tells the story that we should really be focusing on. Because remember when I started telling you about the 3 levels of brand equity? You've got no brand equity. And the second level is name recognition. Name recognition means we have engaged, communicated, presented, articulated, touched, whatever word you want to use, this prospect enough times that if they saw or heard our brand, they would want to choose us. But it's not strong enough that they search for us directly. Now, I'll give you some different variations of what this could be. maybe we've touched them with ads, and it could be billboards, it could be yard signs, it could have been some Facebook ads, it could have been some Google display ads. They've seen our brand 40 times. And I'm going to tell y'all that sounds crazy and absurd, because all of us on here probably remember I think it's 4 to 6, 5 to 7. There's this number that, it's changed a few times, but it's in the early days of business, you had to touch people 5 to 7 times for them to be able to make a decision to move forward with you, to buy or purchase whatever it was you were selling. There's been recent studies done over the last few years. That number is 40 and greater. And it's like, what happened? Where did we go from 5 to 7 to 40 plus? It's like 40 to 60. And it's because if you Google right now and you talk to the AI overview of Google and say, how many ads does the average person see or hear a day? It's going to tell you somewhere between 6 and 10,000. That's commercials we see on TV or ads. If we go to Facebook, it's not like we're clicking on those ads, but those ads are there and we're scrolling and they're in front of us. We go to YouTube, we go to watch a video, and then the video stops, and then mid-roll video, they show us a video that we have to watch. We turn on Spotify and we hear an ad. Right? There's ads all over the place. There's so much noise today that the average person, if it's just touch points only, that is not making that emotional feeling, laugh, cry, or get angry, then it's forgotten about. And so you just got to keep touching and touching and touching and touching and touching and hoping that the time comes that when they need your product or service, that they think of you just because you have just continued to stay in front of them. But the way that we speed this up the most is if you make that emotional connection, you make them do something, laugh, cry, or get angry. Then it makes it stickier. Then eventually a chemical change, a real chemical change happens in the brain, like it did with my 12-year-old son. His brain, if there would have been a brain scan, when that rock hit the windshield, his brain lit up, a certain part of his brain lit up and saw or heard Safelite repair, Safelite replace. My brain lit up anger. Like I wasn't thinking Safelite. I was thinking all kinds of mad, angry things. But that's the 95% of our people. They don't need us today. And I'm also going to tell you that this 5% that you see here, these aren't always the best customers. We think they are. They have a problem. They're on Google. They went to ChatGPT, wherever they searched. They need something fixed today. These are what you call transactional relationships. They're purely transactional. There's nothing relational about it. They don't care about you. You haven't made them feel anything. They have a problem. They went to Google. You were the lucky one that got selected. They call. Hey, can you get out here today? Well, maybe this afternoon, if not first thing in the morning. All right, I really need someone out here today. Okay, well, yeah, let us just go ahead and put you down for this afternoon. We'll let you know if something comes up. All right, how much is it going to be? Well, it's $89 for us to come out. All right, yeah, go ahead and book it. They hang up. What do you think they're doing? You didn't just give them the answer that they wanted, which is, yes, I can be out there in 5 minutes and it'll be free. That's what they wanted to hear. So they're going to keep calling. Hey, I've got this problem. How soon can you get someone out here? That company happens to have a free technician that's available. We can get out there, in the next hour and a half. Okay, great. What is it to send someone out here? It's a $79 trip fee. Okay, thanks. They may or may not even call you back to cancel. They'll wait until you get the automated text message sent to them. The technician's en route, and then they go, oh, never mind. I already got it taken care of. I mean, how many of you on this today listening have gone through that same exact scenario? Because it's purely transactional. So I'm going to tell you that it's not always that paying a bunch of money for these ads are the greatest customers. You ultimately want to get to the third and final stage of brand equity, which is household name. When you reach that, that is the pinnacle. And that's when you're going to start looking and tracking and seeing that the overwhelming majority of your customers are coming from direct search. They've never used you before. You look in the system and you go, well, this is a brand new customer. Never heard from them. And when you look at the data on Google Search Console, your Google Analytics, you start seeing that your direct search keeps going up and up and up. That is a beautiful sign. That means that your branding is working. Whatever you're doing for your brand awareness campaigns, it is paying off. And that's typically the only way you can measure some of these types of campaigns, especially when it's billboards, radio, most TV. You have to measure it by direct search is going up. We're spending less on the lead generation and our ad spend on some of these other, Google PPC and things like that. We're spending money over here on the branding. And at one time, you're going to have to spend both at the kind of the same rate. You should always be, in my opinion, you should be spending more on branding always than lead generation. Whether that's 50-50, 60-40, 70-30, you should be spending more on branding. It's going to pay dividends in the long run. It's not that instant feel good. Oh my gosh, I put in $5,000 and saw that I got $25,000 back on whatever the lead source was. But I'm going to tell you, we've all gone through those peaks and valleys where, man, LSA was great last month, and then it became dog shit. I've heard all the stories. Facebook ads used to work. They don't work anymore. We tried TikTok. It doesn't work. We tried YouTube. YouTube doesn't work. Listen, there's strategies and techniques to all this. There's things called ad fatigue, where your ads that you're running get old, and the people that are seeing it, they get so used to seeing the same ads all the time. So the engagement of those ads is going to go down. But I'm here to tell you that when you're doing brand awareness campaigns and you strategize it the right way, and I want to walk through what that right way looks like. It's this funnel process. And I know the word funnel gets thrown around a lot, and I'm here to tell you there is no such thing as a perfect funnel. I like to think of a funnel as more we're trying to pop popcorn. And so if you throw popcorn the old traditional way, not the bag in the microwave, but if you're popping it on the stove and you don't put a lid on it, and you put popcorn, you put the oil, and you turn the heat on, when it's all said and done, you're going to have some popcorn in your pot. But you're also going to have a lot of popcorn that popped out of the pot, and you're going to have some kernels down at the bottom of that pot that never popped. That's the way a real funnel works. But if you don't have some kind of system in place that says, I am going to focus on a certain group or demographics of people, whether that's city, zip codes, counties, people in blue houses, like if you can pull the data, you can get very specific. Sometimes when it's brand awareness, I just feel like go after a certain area. Go after a certain area and provide value. So I want to show you here what our approach is to popping popcorn or putting people into a funnel. So your top of funnel, it's your awareness. These people don't know you. They don't like you. They don't trust you. And 9 times out of 10, they don't need you. Because where are they going if they have a problem? They're going to Google. They're going to one of the AI platforms if that's what they use. So where we're trying to take this approach is we're trying to meet these people where they are in their lives every day. I'm not the biggest believer in things like radio because I don't listen to the radio. I haven't listened to radio since 2006. Not one time. I don't put on AM, FM radio at all whatsoever. I've been in Dallas now almost 10 years, but I don't listen to any of the local Dallas talk radio shows. It's just not for me. But even if I did listen to radio, like would I listen to the same radio station every day? I don't know. Maybe in the comments, people can tell me. Do y'all listen? If you listen to FM radio, do you listen to the same station every day? With radio, to me, it's the inconsistency of what time of the day is that person in their car? Are you trying to reach someone that's driving at 7 o'clock traffic every day, like you would be doing the 5 or 6 o'clock news? So for me, I want to meet everyone where they are. So I want to be on a multi-channel campaign. I want to be all the places. So this here, what you're seeing, top of funnel, this is educational content. Never trying to sell anyone anything, purely educational. And we want to put these ads on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Shorts, Reels. We're also putting it on like Google Display. We're targeting that city on Google Display. And I know it's hard to see here, but it's Fox News, New York Times, CNN, the BBC. We want to go to major news outlets and get the ad space, but it's still just the people that are in this zip code. Are we trying to sell them anything? No, because if they're searching on Fox News to read articles and we happen to get our display ad right there, a banner ad or something, it's remember where that person is. They don't have a problem. So if you're a plumbing company, you're going to be able to sell someone a new water heater on a Fox News ad? Probably not. But you can get that brand in front of them. You can get that impression. You can get that eyeball on your logo. That's touch point one. And then you keep getting ads from multiple places till eventually they click on it. That's the key. Once they click on what we're putting in front of them, now we got the hook. Right? We've got the hook in them because now there's a retargeting pixel. And we say, okay, this person has been watching our content. They've watched some of our educational content. They appreciate that we're providing value and not trying to sell them anything, but now we've got the hook. And then we move to the middle of the funnel. In the middle of the funnel, you've got a video testimonial. You've got a story about a poor old lady that was freezing cold in her house, and she called to say her furnace wasn't working, but when the company got there, she had no furnace. She didn't know that. It hadn't gotten that cold in many years, so she was always okay with the little floor heater. But she didn't have a furnace. And so our client installed a new furnace for free. And she told that story and she bawled her eyes out. Middle of the funnel, I like to look at, we've already captured their attention. Now, we could capture attention with something funny. I love that. We're using AI video to get very creative with the engagement type content, staying on brand with the video content, but making it something that people will engage with. You have about 3 seconds. 3 seconds when someone hits play on a video that you watch to really get their attention and keep them there. And I know that may seem not fair, but it's the truth. That is the average watch time of videos. So we are using, and we're using AI video because some of the funny stuff we want to do, we'd have to bring in actors. We'd have to bring in costumes. So when we go on these 2-day video shoots that we do at TopServe, we get really, really expensive really quick if we were trying to do that level of video production. But I'm here to tell you that the AI video content is getting really, really good. And when we start sprinkling in the real video content of the testimonials and the on-the-job videos and showing the guys doing the work in the field and stuff, that's all super valuable. That's all evergreen content that we can continue to use over and over and over and over and over. But that new content at the top, we either got to continue to educate and provide value, or we got to engage with something that is going to make them feel something. And you can do that with the educational content. You can make them feel angry. And it's not you're making them angry, you're getting them to align with you and be angry. All right, think of like a roofer up on a roof. And he's going, listen, I want to show you today what a lot of roofing contractors do. All right, and you talk about something shady that contractors do to try to screw the insurance companies or screw the homeowner over. And so when you're coming from a very transparent, honest place in a video to say, watch out for this. If you see a contractor doing this, it's wrong and it's a red flag. That is making that person watching it feel something. Or you could be going up a ladder and, falling off the ladder, or we've got a window company right now that we're turning into, it's called King's Windows. And we're the owner, his name is Lee King, but we are turning him into a character called King Lee. And so King Lee is going to be this guy, this big, massive dude. The owner's this big fella, and we're turning him into a king. And we're going to make AI video very funny, where the employees are having to tell the customers, we're so sorry, disregard this guy. It's our owner. And we dressed him up in this outfit and turned him into King Lee for these commercials we were shooting. And he just doesn't want to leave character. Ha, 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 ha. But they're going to be funny. And we're going to make sure that the larger part of DFW is going to know who King Lee is. And they're going to connect King Lee to King's Windows. And so it's getting creative. But that's the video content top of funnel is not going to immediately put money back in your hands. That's the difference between branding and lead generation. And I'm here to tell you, you can keep paying Yelp and Angie's List and your crazy expensive budgets on Google, but there is a ceiling because remember, Google is the largest lead aggregator. Google doesn't create demand. So if there is no demand, you're just spending more and more money to try to get a couple leads. But when you're doing brand awareness, you actually have the opportunity to create your own demand. And the reason why is because you're speaking to such a larger audience that doesn't need you or have a problem today until you convince them that maybe they do. Like nobody knew that they needed, and it may not be need, it may be a want, know that they wanted to get new siding on their home or a new front door, a new garage door until they saw what it could possibly look like if they did. Or they heard that by getting the new siding or the new front door or the new garage door could increase the home value of their property until you educate them and told them that. So middle of the funnel, this is where we build trust and credibility. Bottom of the funnel, this is where we start getting our money back. And think about shooting fish in a barrel. We've all heard that term before. What does it mean? Right? The fish are stuck there in the barrel, so it's easy to get them, shoot them, whatever. Well, that's what we want to do with our ads is we want to show them enough brand awareness content, educational content, testimonial content, problem solution content, before and after content, story brand content. That they know us, they like us, and they trust us so that when we do have this audience, it's a custom audience. It's a private audience just for you that you've created. And the platforms like Meta and Google and TikTok and YouTube will tell you, all right, here's your group of people that have now consumed and been going through all this other content. Here's your group of people. Now you feed those people offers and ads, and you put the coupons and the call to actions to those people. Now you've got this group of people that is much more likely to buy from you because they actually know you and they trust you. I'm going to tell you a quick story real quick. There's, I was told this past in 2025. I was at a conference. And I want all of us to think about this story. This was happened in a little town just outside of Savannah, Georgia. This data survey company was brought in to do a study. And the study was how buyers operate, how the mind works on brand equity, brand awareness. And here's what happened. They sent out a survey where they offered a monetary reward for everyone to submit their answers. They sent out a survey to every single person in that city, and they said, who is the best real estate agent in your town? And it was multiple choice. There was no clear winner. There was somebody had 5%, 8%, 10%, 4%. There was no clear winner. It was all over the map. And then what they did for the next 6 months, every week for 6 months, they sent out a direct mail card to every single homeowner. And they said, it was a direct mail card about one particular real estate agent. And 6 months later, they sent out the survey again, got people to submit it back because they were paying them to do so, and said, who is the best real estate agent in your town? And it was, again, multiple choice that had this real estate agent on it. And that one real estate agent that they sent the direct mail for every week won hands down. It was like a 87-ish, 90-something% winner. And I'm here to tell you, it was a fake real estate agent. It was a make-believe person that they made up. And the end of the study was this: it's not about being the best. It is being the best known. There's a word for this that I went over with Ryan Shute just the other day. It's called parasocial relationships. Parasocial relationships is the people will recommend and refer companies they've never used before, and they don't even know, like when they ask them, like, how do you know that company? If they were to push them on it, they can't tell you because it's not like they've used them before, but it's like subliminally been stuck inside that person's head. And so someone says, like, what's the, who do you recommend for garage door company? Like that company, that homeowner may have never used a garage door company, so they will recommend a brand that is actually stuck in their head. And that's kind of what this study showed here, is that you can get in people's heads and you can be recommended and you can be top of mind for people and never have used them before. But you have to think outside of how do I look at two different divisions? Leads, branding. The stronger the brand, the cheaper my leads. The stronger my brand, the higher my conversion rate of those leads are going to be. The stronger my brand, the higher my average tickets will be. Because when you have that trust already established with someone before they even called you, everything else is going to perform better. So I've got a couple more things that I want to show here, and that is the financial planning sheet. And I know I kind of got off track a little bit here with this, but I want to offer this sheet to anyone that's on this webinar that's not a client. Our clients have these sheets, but anyone that wants this sheet, I want to offer you this sheet, and I want to help you get this sheet filled out. This is the budget planning sheet, and I'm going to be respectful of everybody's time, so not going to work through one of these live with anyone and get you to submit your numbers, but you have to understand what your end goal is. What is your revenue goal for the year? And is it a profit margin you're trying to maintain, or is it a top line revenue goal? But regardless, and there could be many goals that you're trying to achieve, but if you're trying to hit, you did 8.3 million last year and you're trying to hit 10 million this year, you've got to put a plan together. And if you're in the home service and home improvement space, it's not going to be as easy as, I want to do $12 million divided by 12 months, so I need to do $1 million a month. No, we don't live in a world where everything is just perfectly going to just be the same every single month. And sometimes in home improvement, if we're not in somewhere like Minnesota where there's a lot of snow, you can forecast a little better than a air conditioner plumbing, an air conditioning company might be able to because it's so seasonality based. But you're still going to have back to school months and your holiday months, or certain months that every year this month is extremely slow for us or extremely busy for us. And you have to be able to plan for that. And so on this planning sheet, you need to understand, one, do I have one average or do I have two averages? So if I'm air conditioning, I've got two averages. I've got a repair or service, or I've got an installation or replacement average ticket. But if I'm plumbing, I may only have one average ticket. A lot of garage doors look at one average ticket because the repairs are so few and far between. So you have to establish that first. And then on this sheet, obviously, we're looking at things like, what is the flip rate of these leads that are coming in? This is my favorite. Column P is looking at what is the cost per acquisition. And there's a lot of different ways you can look at how many leads come in, and then what is our booking rate? What is our run rate? When we put out a marketing plan like this, we want to purely look at these are trucks and driveways leads. They've already been called, booked, scheduled, and they didn't cancel. We went to their house. We want to look at the final 100% booked number. How many of those do we need at our average ticket? So in this example here, this company wants to do $10 million in revenue this year. Their average tickets are $19,000 for replacement, $700 for service. They need 3,825 service calls at their $700, and they need 399 installs at $19,000 to hit their $9,979,200. Then our team has to go and figure out where are we going to get those leads from and how much is it going to cost us to be able to do that. And so we know with this client, because he's been with us for 6 years at this point, we know what his average cost per acquisition is on a blended number from SEO, his Google Maps, those are organic, and then the paid sources, Facebook, LSA, PPC, whatever. We know that we're generating cost per acquisition for him on a blended number for somewhere around $200. Now, if you have a weak brand and you don't have a lot of traffic coming to your website, that you're converting leads from your website, or you're converting leads from your Google My Business account, then your cost per acquisition is going to be much higher. I've got right up here on the screen, this is something that came out from Searchlight earlier this month, and it was, this is what cost per acquisition for plumbing, HVAC, and electrical is costing when they're looking at a return on ad spend. HVAC cost per acquisition, almost $900, $894 to acquire a new customer on Google Ads for non-branded. And that's very important. Non-branded, I want y'all to understand what that means. Don't get confused by your marketing company when they show you that you're getting your PPC leads for 30 or 40 bucks and tell you that your cost per conversion is $110. Don't look at your branded key terms. That is people searching for your name directly. Those leads are super cheap. And all of us, we want to get to a place when we're getting to that pinnacle level of brand equity, household name. That's where we only want to be spending money on Google AdWords for our name only. That way, if someone searches for us because they've seen our ads, they're in this fight or flight moment, they go to Google, they type in, Jonathan's Plumbing. I don't want a competitor trying to steal my ad up top. So I'm going to buy my own name because everything else underneath it organically is going to be mine already. That's the place all of us want to get to, is where we're only buying ads on Google that are branded. Non-branded is plumber near me, roofer near me, siding near me, HVAC repair near me. That's non-branded. This is the real numbers. This is somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 air-conditioned plumbing and electrical companies that they have in this data set here. So where it was only $141 to get the lead, then to get the lead, to book the lead, it was almost a 1 in 3 ratio, which is pretty good. A 3-to-1 ratio of crap leads coming in. I got to get through 3 crap leads to get a good lead on Google. This is good. But then that makes that number $419 just to get a booked job. But look at this number. $419 to $894 goes from booked to money's exchange in hands. Now, what does that mean? Remember that example that I gave you earlier? Hey, can you get out here today? Well, I might be able to. And they're calling everyone else. So now you've got cancellations because these are not great customers. These are transactional relationships. So it goes from $419 to $894. This was a good lead. You booked the customer at $419, and it's still, their data shows before it was a cost per acquisition, it was over 100% increase. And it's the same thing for plumbing, $837, and electrical, $719. So I'm going to wrap this up by saying this. You need to understand what you're spending money on, where you're spending money on, and what the true forecast can be for you as far as expectations of a return on investment. And always remember, the stronger your brand, the more sticky you become with that customer, prospect, whatever you want to call it, the higher the conversion rate of that lead is going to be. Why? Because they're not going to cancel on you. They're not going to call around 4 other people to see if they can get there faster. If you have acquired brand equity with them and they know you, like you, and trust you because of content that you put out there first, then that lead is going to be stickier and more loyal to you. If you stay with just the lead aggregators only and don't start investing into your brand, then you're going to stay on the digital heroin and your leads are only going to get more and more expensive. And I only say that because that's what the data shows. Facebook, Google, TikTok, YouTube, PPC, LSA, everything over the last 3 or 4 years is on a steep incline as far as cost. So the leads from the platforms themselves, the platforms are charging you more than they were 2 or 3 years ago. And it's not going to stop. Do you not think that Google is going to find a way to make up for any lost revenue to a lead generator paid platform or PPC type thing that Perplexity or ChatGPT rolls out? Any lost revenue, they're going to make it up somehow because they have shareholders that they represent. So they'll figure out how to make it up. They're just going to make it up by charging you more for the lead. So we have to be planning. And I'm happy to go over this with you, and I'm happy to build one of these out with you. But we have to get to a place where we understand what we're trying to achieve this particular month and next month and the next month, and what is the plan that's going to be put into place to be able to achieve that. What are we spending on YouTube or Google or Facebook or TikTok. And the money that we're spending, is it to generate an instant lead, or is it to educate, provide value, make ourselves sticky? Because we're saying, oh, look, we know that person doesn't have a problem right now. If they had a problem right now, they'd be putting in plumber near me and going through that whole Russian roulette. I think this conversation that we're having today, I want to be more of a mindset change, that we have to change our mindset about branding and making ourselves familiar. And I'm going to tell you, it's putting out content that makes an emotional connection. The more you can make yourself known and make them feel something, the less times you have to touch them. And what I mean by that is Safelite Repair, or it's Safelite, right? The name of the company is Safelite. Safelite doesn't have to spend any more money on my 12-year-old necessarily. Maybe here and there, sprinkle some stuff, because he's got that jingle, and the chemical change is already happening in his brain. He starts driving 4 years from now, and a rock hits his windshield, his brain's going to light up, and it's going to be the Safelite thing. So the more you can make someone feel, the less you have to keep hitting them with ads. But it's all about making them feel, getting the frequency right. But it's a commitment. It's a commitment to say, I am going to invest into the people that don't need me today, but may need me tomorrow, definitely going to need me in the future because they own a home, live in my service area. So I'm going to invest into them. And I'm going to invest into them because I don't want to just chase the digital heroine and the people that run to Google that have a problem, because they are a transactional relationship. And a lot of times, not all the time, a lot of times those transactional relationships are garbage because they want you to be the cheapest and the fastest. So I'm going to wrap it up with that. And I want to say I'm super thankful for all of you that stuck around to the end. I know I've gone over the allotted hour time, but we are committed to helping educate any of our clients and any of our future clients on how to properly build out their budget for 2026. And there is no secret, perfect formula. Anybody that tells you that there is full of it. The people that try to sell you 27 installs in the next 25 days, it's a scam. Because they don't control demand. That marketing company doesn't control demand any more than Google controls the demand. So there's no guarantees when you say and do that. The guarantee that we can guarantee you is that we're going to make you a local celebrity. We're going to put you in front of your target audience, and we're going to make sure that they see your ads over and over and over. And if you were to send that survey company in and to give them a survey to say, you know, who is the local roofing company that you would know or recommend, they're going to say your company's name, because we're going to force it in their brains. So I appreciate everyone that was here, especially the clients that were here and chiming in and communicating here. Just seeing a lot of the comments. So I'm super grateful and thankful. I hope each and every one of you have the best 2026, and let's make it a great year. Thank you all so much.